how excited all of us are to be here. Everybody keeps asking me, how many more seasons do you have and what's going to happen? You guys keep watching the show, we'll keep making the show. That's all I can say. We have a great time, and I just want to make sure that, all the fans that we get a chance to meet, I want this to be a memorable experience for everybody. So thanks to all of you for coming. And
Nice.
It's been great.
Yeah. What's been your favorite part of London? You have any chance to do anything cool while you were here this time?
I saw there was a black curtain on one side and a black curtain on the other, and my picture was behind me.
Yeah, good times.
That's kind of all I saw.
Good
but
times.
that's all right, because that's, I love London. I have friends that live here, and
Right.
when we're on, it's fortunate that we're on hiatus, because if we were shooting, we would never be able to make the trip. So when I found out that Walker Stalker was coming, I'm very fond of the UK, and I said, yeah, please count me in. I'd love to come and meet some fans over here in Europe. So.
Yeah. And how cool is it to be, in the setting of American Werewolf in London? I really loved that. I was pretty pumped.
Well, I went to Piccadilly, of course,
Yeah.
looking for the porn theater that they shot in, and it's a frickin' Gap now.
yeah.
But I went around and I went, okay, well, that's where the werewolf went through
Yep.
that happened there, and that happened there, and so
Yeah.
of course I still went.
Yeah, well, see you next
And
Wednesday.
I bought a T-shirt. No, I'm just kidding.
I was at the Gap going to see you next Wednesday going to play. Can we get this
Yeah.
going?
It just had a werewolf on the shirt.
So, again, I don't have you for a ton of time, so let's jump into what we just saw, the mid-season finale.
Yes.
Wow.
No, premiere.
Premiere, rather, excuse me. I'm ahead of myself because I want to see Negan. But, I know, I'm sorry. So many walkers. What was the challenge like getting everybody, because they all looked fantastic. They all looked like hero walkers to me.
They did. That was probably the largest makeup crew we ever had. I think we had 14 people, because I knew that when you're in close proximity, you needed hero walkers around all the actors. And there was a few little aspects of it that you probably didn't pick up, but at the beginning when they're walking through the herd, and even later when Sam lets go of Rick's hand and starts freaking out with Jesse, we blocked it so zombies were going in between them. So there were times when they had to let go of their hands to let a zombie go through and then hold their hands again. So if you watch closely, you can see zombies kind of like going past Michonne and past Rick. Otherwise, it would never make sense. Why would Rick ever let go of Sam's hand? So all this kind of logic you have to think about. So when we were shooting the scene, and I said to Andy, I said, okay, Rick would never let go of Sam's hand. Sam has to let go of him. Otherwise, Rick would protect him. That's what his job is. So we had to play it that when Sam lets go of Rick's hand and then Rick turns around and goes, Sam, come on. And he leans forward and you see a walker goes right past him. So it sort of isolates them out a little bit. But it was, there was a couple little beats that didn't make it in the final cut, which, like when they're standing in the middle of the herd talking, one thing I kept saying is, why, if they're talking, then the zombies would hear them. So we did a few shots where Michonne, a walker would get too close and Michonne would just go and stab the zombies to sort of keep the perimeter clear. And once we got into all the stuff with Sam and Jesse and Ron, it took you out of that emotion to start seeing Michonne killing walkers. So it was a choice that we made to keep it confined emotionally into that group.
And you directed that episode, and I think now we're getting to the point too where we can tell which ones you direct. They're so fantastic. I think about what happened and what's going on. I think of this episode. Is it really challenging to direct and to make sure that all the effects are still going correctly, or does it make it easier in a way?
Well, I have a great effects team, and the gags that we design. I mean, I still design everything even during prep. Like I think I talked a little bit on my panel about Jesse and Carl's hands, and I've done enough gags in movies where you chop someone, like in Kill Bill, we chopped everybody's arms off and heads off and legs off, and we used magnets to hold the heads together, and so all those gags, all those decapitations, even earlier in The Walking Dead, we would have fake torsos with heads stuck on with magnets, and Denai would physically chop the heads off. So we would use that kind of stuff, but it always looked a little wobbly. So I thought when we're seeing Rick hacking into Jesse's wrist, I wanted to see the axe going through multiple times. You know, even in the comic book, it's like it almost looks like wham, he just cuts through once and it's like butter. But everything that we built it so that there was a little rigid bone in the center. Every dummy that we've ever built for almost any movie is partially built anatomically correct. We'll put a rigid piece of bone in there, we'll put some silicone muscle, and we'll put a skin over it and blood tubing. So when you see the skin rip open, your brain's telling you, oh wait, there's understructure inside there. That's why all those things always look so real, because you actually feel like there's anatomy inside there. And every gag that we do on The Walking Dead is built so that it has that extra level of realism that keeps you guys sort of glued to the TV, so to speak. Or your iPad or your phone or whatever you watch it on.
Right. And speaking of glued, I think that whole sequence had everybody, glued every second. The Walker Kid, we don't see a ton of those anymore. Yeah. So seeing a Walker Kid was phenomenal. And then Sam, the head bite. So whose idea was that, and how did you really pull off that big head bite?
That was my idea, only because we change every time we do a bite, every time somebody gets killed, every time someone gets swarmed, we do it a little differently. If we did it exact same way every time, you guys would be like, oh yeah, that just looked like how Dale got killed, or that looked like how Merle died, that looked like... So we try to mix it up. So having the years of experience, I've been doing this for 30 years, I love that I still get to change things up. For that bite, I thought, okay, I'm in a very tight close-up of Major, and he's doing his thing with Alexandra, and I wanted to stay in the emotion. So we're shooting a close-up of him, and when he gets grabbed, I wanted it to be complete shock. Like, you don't see it coming. So we had, and I talked about this in the panel a little bit yesterday, we built one zombie that had a pair of dentures that had blood tubing running to the dentures and off the off-camera side. So it was one of my guys on my makeup crew. So he physically grabbed Major and bit into the top of his head with rubber teeth, so the teeth didn't hurt him. And when the rubber teeth bent, the blood sprayed out of the teeth and ran down his face. And it was very important to me. And I even said to Major before we do the shot, I said, listen, you might get blood in your eye because the position of how you are, it might go in your eye. It's gonna be a little aggravating, but we have the medic right here so we can rinse your eye immediately. But just be prepared because blood's gonna gush down your head. And it's very funny. So we shot this episode in August, and I don't get to share it with anybody until you guys have seen it. So I've had to wait all this time. So the week before it aired in the United States, my 10-year-old daughter saw the promo on TV, and she went, Dad, I want to see that. What happens to Daryl and Abraham and Sasha next? And I said, well, I have the episode right here. Do you want to watch it? So my 10-year-old and I watched it like a week before it aired. And when Sam got grabbed, she went, and then when Carl got shot, she went, and she was like frozen to the TV. I was just going to show her the opening scene with the RPG, but she was so frozen to the television. And she said the funniest thing at the end, Carl's in the infirmary and Rick's doing his big heartfelt speech, and you see Carl's hand do this, and Alyssa goes, Dad, he's a walker, I know it. She saw his hand move and she was convinced that he was coming back as a walker. And then when it was done, she was like, that was the best episode. And I said, well, Daddy directed. And she went, you did a really good job, Dad. I'm very happy. So I got a 10-year-old on my side, which is great.
And that's all the approval we really need at the end of the day, right?
You have
Absolutely.
a daughter as well.
And she must have cheered when Ron got impaled, right? We all did, right?
Yes. But, it was an interesting character. I think the way the tension was set up, one thing you guys know when you watch the shows, we set everything up very early on. And letting those things pay off, it's always what makes those moments feel more authentic. If it just happened out of the blue, it wouldn't make any sense. But setting up all that stuff with Ron and Carl as far back as the end of last season, it's watching the water boil over. And there was a great amount of suspense and tension. And the second half of the season, as you guys all noticed, the way we cut the last end of 609, where it was that rapid fire cutting, and then all of a sudden everybody's image blurs together into one, and then it's just Rick doing that last slow motion shot. And that was our way visually of saying it's no longer us and them, it's no longer the Alexandrians and Rick's group, they're all now one group. When they're all standing outside the infirmary, when the camera tracks down all those dead bodies on the streets and up into the infirmary, you see everybody there waiting to see what happens to Carl and what's going on. So now we are moving on from that to show Alexandria as a united group. And we've already seen that the saviors are out there and Negan's people are scurrying about. So it's good that they're banded together because they're going to need it.
So again, being how brilliant that episode was, can you tell us, have you directed more episodes in this back half?
I did. I directed episode 12, which airs the first weekend in March, and the finale.
And the finale.
And the finale, and the finale was my 15th episode that I've ever directed. So when I direct the premiere in season 7, I will have directed an entire season of The Walking Dead.
Phenomenal.
I can be like, okay, now I can retire, which I won't, but I can say that.
Right.
And I will tell you with all honesty, the finale is my favorite episode I've ever shot.
Wow.
It's so different. It's so powerful. It's so moving. When I edited it together and I watched it, and I was so pulled into the story. And then when I was over, like, damn, I directed the hell out of that. It's really good. The script is great. The acting is fantastic. I think the acting's even better than in last week's episode, and that's saying a lot because everybody killed it.
Right.
So
I think you just coined a new phrase too. So next time you go, you're going to say, "Excuse me, guys, I'm going to go direct the hell out of this."
I'm going to direct the hell out of it.
And not saying that we're going to see him in the back half, but we do know we'll meet Negan at some point. A question that I just have in my head: wardrobe obviously decides, what he's wearing, but Lucille, is that all you?
Well, it's a prop like that would be props.
Yeah.
It would not be makeup effects. But as you can tell, we there are certain iconic aspects of the show that we stick pretty closely to. So the look of Abraham when he was first introduced, that shot,
right,
which I shot of the camera going up to them and having Eugene and Rosita come around the truck. I shot that shot, and I had the comic book right there, and I went, this is the shot we're doing. Low angle, put the camera on a dolly, make this nice heroic sort of move up to Abraham. So we go to great lengths. Even the shot with Carl, the reveal of Carl, was very close to the graphic novel. So I think it's safe to say that a lot of the inspiration from what Negan will look like will come from the comic book, including his props.
Fantastic. And will we see you as a Walker again at any point?
No,
you're hanging that up.
It's too tricky. This was I have to say something I haven't talked about a lot. This was a very challenging season. As you guys noticed through the first half, every episode was gigantic. I mean, we really opened up the scale and the scope of the show. And by doing that, that meant that on episode 2, the Just Survive Somehow, second unit went in. I shot a lot of the fights in Alexandria. And then for episode 3, I was in Walker makeup and setting the cameras when Glenn climbed under the dumpster. And I was shooting second unit concurrently almost the entire season. So aside from directing 4 episodes, I was picking up shots of other sequences through the entire season. So it was harder for me to get into makeup in the second half of the season because I was filming literally 2 to 3 days a week every week. So
you never know.
You never know.
You got to direct the hell out of some stuff sometimes.
Direct the hell out of something. I hope so. I hope you guys like it. Clearly,
we love it.
You guys are dedicated to the show, which makes us all very proud. That's why we're here. We're here for you guys. We're here to meet you guys and to support the show. So again,
well, I know I got to let you go, and I really believe that for this weekend we saved the best for last. Ladies and gentlemen, hands together one more time for Mr. Craig Nicotero.
Thanks, everybody.